Business planning. There are various forms of plans used in business today. This presentation deals with the documents and plans used by technology startup companies. There are some very good reasons for taking the time to prepare a business plan. Helping us understand the dynamics and challenges of the business, the process of preparing a business plan is possibly even more important than the end result, the plan itself. Understanding the revenue model, the scope and possibilities of the business is critical to success, and studying the competitive landscape can help us avoid very costly mistakes. It's much less expensive and less painful to discover the barriers to success for a company in the planning process than it is to discover these challenges after the company is formed, money invested, and careers are gambled on a startup venture with a flawed strategy. The business plan is a vital component of the fundraising process, and as we will see, venture investors require plans to be prepared and presented in a particular style. On the startup journey, it's critical that management has a clear roadmap, identifying the destination, milestones along the way, and contingency plans to deal with obstacles as they appear across your path. The business plan provides an opportunity to rally the team, coordinate efforts, and make sure everyone is heading in the same direction. The format of the business plan that's presented to outside investors evolves as the company matures. The focus switches from forward-looking plans to backward-looking results and disclosures. In the foundation stage, the plan may be simply a few notes scratched out on the back of a napkin or an envelope. This type of plan is seldom used to raise funding, but it can be useful in explaining the business and sharing ideas among the founding team. In the seed stage, angel investors are going to want to see an executive summary in the form of a 2 to 4 page document and a 10 to 20 slide slideshow. The way this condensed version of the plan is presented can be critical to the success of the early fundraising efforts, as seed stage investors like to see the summary presented in a way they're familiar with. After the initial funding is raised and staff are recruited, a more detailed operating plan is required. This contains detailed financial projections, budgets, and hiring plans. In the expansion stage, corporate investors and other strategic investors want to see a prospectus that accurately describes the company's performance to date, the biographies of the management team, as they're looking for credibility and momentum in the marketplace. The prospectus that's used to sell the company is also very much a backward-looking document that discloses the company's status and history. The prospectus that's used to raise funds from public investors in an IPO is very much a legal and financial document that's highly regulated by the SEC. So depending on the stage of the company, the form of business plan that's used to raise funds from investors goes through significant changes. It's important to understand where you are in this process when preparing a business plan and create a plan that meets your investors' expectations. The purpose of the plan you present to company stakeholders is to communicate the opportunity, your understanding of the business, and the strategies of management. It's also important to bear in mind that this is a test of your credibility. If you're unable to write a compelling business plan, then you're unlikely to win backing for your ideas. It may sound obvious that the plan should be readable and easy to digest, but many plans are too technical or too long-winded to keep the reader's attention. Use a writing style that's readable and easily understandable for non-technical readers. You need to present the company in its best light, but it's easy to go too far and turn serious readers off by using a glitzy advertising style of writing. Write the plan in a concise, direct, honest, matter-of-fact style. Telling a story is a proven technique for maintaining the reader's attention. With a business plan for a technology startup, the story often runs along the lines of founder is very smart, manages to solve a huge problem that no one has managed to solve before, needs funding to commercialize, huge opportunity. Don't make any claims or promises, though, that you may not be able to support. The business plan provided to investors is a legal document, so have it checked by your lawyer to make sure you're not exposing the company to unnecessary liability. Of course, demonstrating momentum in the business is highly effective. Make sure you highlight key milestones achieved, positive press coverage, and endorsements from respected experts in your field. Make a note of these business plan sections. Organizing the document under these specific headings is more important than many entrepreneurs may think. The reason is that investors spend a large portion of their time scanning business plans. You'd expect the reader to start at the beginning of the document and diligently work their way through to the end, but this is rarely the case. Large venture capital investors receive literally thousands of plans from budding entrepreneurs and generally invest in less than 1% of the plans they receive. So investors often develop their own methodology for scanning business plans and quickly finding the ones matching their interests. Some do start by looking at the executive summary. Others turn directly to the competition section to identify the competition and gauge if this is the market in which they want to pursue. Financial-oriented investors may start by scanning the profit and loss projections. Some start by analyzing the market. Many look first at the bios of the management team. By organizing your plan under these familiar headings, you will allow the investors to quickly navigate to the sections they're interested in. Although the technology underpinning your business should be creative and unique, the organization and presentation of your business plan should be familiar and predictable if it's going to appeal to professional investors. After watching this presentation, you'll appreciate that writing a good business plan takes time. Professional business plan writers estimate that it takes around 3 months to prepare a plan for the venture capital community, but entrepreneurs often find the process takes even longer. Of course, writing a handful of pages of text and putting together a spreadsheet is not very time-consuming, but performing the underlying research can take months. You can't write the plan until you have credible market metrics. You've analyzed the competitors and selected the most effective marketing, distribution, and promotional strategies. All these tasks take time. There's no point distributing a rushed business plan that's incomplete or difficult to defend. In fact, this could damage your image and reputation with investors. After they've rejected your first attempt at a business plan, it's very difficult to ask them to reconsider a second attempt, even if it is more compelling. So be prepared to invest some time into conducting the necessary research and preparing the business plan. Writing the plan is an iterative process. In fact, the plan is constantly evolving as the business changes and matures. The document needs to be reviewed and amended numerous times before it's ready to present to investors. The ideal scenario is that you find a couple of friendly investors or experts familiar with this form of business plan that will review the document for you and provide candid, honest advice aimed at making the plan more effective. Make sure the individuals you choose to help you really do understand what investors are looking for. The last thing you need at this stage is advice from people unaccustomed to the fundraising process. There are professional business plan writers that specialize in preparing documents for investors. If you can afford to hire one, your chances of success are much increased. For some entrepreneurs unaccustomed to writing business plans, the iterative process of writing their own plan will never produce a compelling document, and hiring a professional is the smart thing to do. When the company has a CEO and management team, they all participate in writing the business plan. But for a seed stage company, the founders may be solely responsible for preparing the plan. If you do bring in a professional business plan writer, it's best to do so after you've prepared a draft of the plan in-house. You can't abdicate responsibility. Business planning is not an activity that can be outsourced entirely. The role of the outside business plan writer is to present the company and management strategy in the most effective way possible. To merely repackage the plan, not to create it. If you're not a native English speaker and you wish to present your plan to English-speaking investors, then bringing in an outside professional writer is imperative. You don't want your plan rejected merely for the fact that your English contains grammatical errors. The business plan can be articulated in many different ways. You'll need various forms of materials when raising funds from investors. The elevator pitch is a brief overview of the business opportunity that can be delivered in the time span of an elevator ride, around 30 seconds or 100 to 150 words. Okay, so you're unlikely to find yourself in an elevator with an investor, but you will need to deliver the elevator speech to voicemail systems and write it into introductory email messages. It's important to get the elevator pitch right, as you'll use it more often than any other component of the business plan. Investors in seed stage and early stage companies normally want to see an executive summary of the business plan, a 2 to 4 page document summarizing the plan in either Adobe Acrobat PDF or Microsoft Word format. When you get the chance to meet with investors face to face, you'll need a slideshow presentation. Usually about 15 to 20 slides. This presents the key points of the business plan in a bullet point style with supporting charts and graphics. When presenting to investors, demonstrating company momentum in the form of milestones and stepping stones achieved and positive buzz with customers, the press and analysts can be highly effective. Investors understandably want to jump on a bandwagon that's already rolling and attracting attention in the marketplace. So gather supporting materials that you can show to investors when the opportunity arises. As well as the 15 to 20 business plan slides in your slideshow presentation, it's good practice to prepare a second, longer presentation with perhaps 50 to 100 slides that you can select and jump to in response to questions from your audience. You don't want to derail your pitch, but your presentation will be very impressive if you're able to provide well-constructed answers to all the questions asked. They say a picture tells 1,000 words, and photographs and video clips can be very compelling. If you have video clips of happy customer testimonials or press reports, make them available so you can use them in your presentation. If you have glossy brochures or other impressive marketing materials, make these available as well. Some investors are impressed by professional marketing materials. In an ideal world, a quick Google search will result in credible market sizing data from one or more respected research organizations that show your market is measured in billions of dollars and growing at a tremendous rate. Of course, this is rarely possible. The first problem is that most credible reports are not available for free and can run to thousands of dollars. The second problem is that good metrics are normally only available for mature markets, and the best startup opportunities are in new, emerging markets where there's little or no data. This is not to say that surfing the internet for data is a waste of time. You can often find useful information in press releases announcing new market research reports from respected organizations. Searching your competitors' websites can also sometimes result in valuable information, as they often publish market data they've found themselves. Sometimes your market will not be tracked directly by one of the large research organizations. It's not unusual for technology startup companies pioneering new market sectors. Often the best way of finding credible figures in this situation is by combining two or more existing market reports, essentially taking several overlapping market research reports and merging them to extrapolate the size of your emerging market sector. A snapshot of the market today will make sense only in context, with an assessment of the growth to date and a projection of future market developments. The financial projections in the plan should show quarterly profit and loss and cash flow projected over the next 5 years. The figures for a technology startup worthy of venture capital funding show losses in the first couple of years, then break even, then significant profits in years 4 and 5. To attract investors, the sales revenues and profit projections must reach huge levels by the end of the 5-year period. Investors are looking to back startups that grow into multi-billion dollar multinational corporations. Let's look at some of the key research tasks in the business planning process. Assess market growth to date. Looking backward in time, you need to gather market information and assess the growth this market has experienced to date. Assess market growth projections. Looking ahead, you need to find credible projections for how this market will grow in the coming years. Assess your target customer profile. Identifying and understanding your customers is critical to success in any market. A profile of your target customer is an important part of any marketing campaign and a core component of the business plan. It's important to understand who your target customers are, where they are, and how they operate. Assess your customer buying process. If you don't understand the customer, you'll have very little chance of success. For your marketing strategy to be effective, you need an accurate and in-depth understanding of the buying process that your typical target customer will follow. Will customers need to run trials before they commit to buy? Will the purchase decision involve due diligence of your company? Will the customer need product customization to meet their needs? How long will the buying process take? You need to answer these and other questions if you're going to be able to build an effective sales and marketing channel to penetrate this market. This task involves assessing each of the steps customers take when buying your product, such as evaluating, testing, recommending, approval, and so on. This task is completed when you can explain each of the steps taken by customers when buying your product and estimate the length of time each step takes. Any salesperson will tell you that identifying who's involved in making the decision to buy your product from within your typical customer's organization is very important. Assessing and identifying your typical customer buying team means finding answers to the following questions. How many individual employees of your customer are involved in making the decision to buy your product? Does one person gather all the information about possible alternative purchases? Where does the budget come from? Does the decision require board approval? Who has the power? The executives, the managers, the board of directors, or the CEO in your target customer organization? Do they put the purchase order out to tender? What's the process? Who signs off on the purchase order? You need to understand who is in the typical customer buying team, where the power lies, and how the decisions are made if you're going to prepare an effective sales and marketing strategy. Customer needs create new opportunities for vendors. Understanding where the current needs and opportunities are is the first step in creating a compelling and marketable product. As markets and technologies develop, the needs of customers change. This task is completed when you can answer the following questions. What are the market needs today? What products and services are or will soon be in demand from customers? Why aren't these needs being addressed by established competitors? Your business plan should articulate the current state of the market, the needs of customers, and the opportunities facing vendors like yourselves. Market trends may be driven by new technologies, vendors, customer needs, new channels of distribution, or other factors. What are the trends driving this market? Are new technologies transforming the products on offer? Are customers looking for new types of service? Are new competitors flooding in? Are price points dropping? When preparing a compelling business plan, you need to answer these questions and convincingly articulate how you see the current trends in the market. Assessing the typical sales cycle time frame is a step in the business planning process that involves analyzing the steps involved in selling your products to customers. The steps in the selling process from the seller's perspective will usually mirror the steps customers follow in their buying process. This task is completed when you're able to explain to investors and managers how long the typical sales process takes, identify each of the steps involved, and you're able to answer the following questions. How long does it take for a sales lead to transition from inquiry to prospect through to customer? How long does it take to convert an inquiry to a sale? What are the steps in the process from the sales perspective? Assessing trends in customer buying patterns is a step in the business planning process that involves analyzing and understanding how customer buying behavior is evolving over time. This task is completed when you're able to answer the following questions. Are customers changing their buying patterns? Are they turning to the internet to buy or find new products and suppliers? Are customers looking to cut out chains in the distribution channel and buy from the vendor instead of the distributor? What are the most significant changes in customer buying patterns? Define your promotional strategy. The promotional strategy needs to be thoroughly thought through, otherwise the business plan will not be compelling and you could waste lots of money on ineffective marketing campaigns. This task is completed when you're able to answer the following questions. What's the most effective promotional strategy for this company? How will you reach your customers, create a brand name, and establish credibility? Will advertising have a role to play? Online, TV, print, or radio advertising? How about public relations? Is direct mail a viable promotional vehicle? How about email newsletters? Which trade shows and conferences will you attend? What will be the objective of attending these events? These and other answers need to be provided when defining the company's promotional strategy. Define pricing strategy. Pricing is obviously an essential element of a marketing plan. This task is completed when you're able to answer the following questions. How will your products be priced? What about the discount structure for distributors? How does pricing compare with your competitors? What's the underlying pricing strategy? Does the company plan to be the lowest price or position itself in the premium price sector? Identify your competitors. This task is completed when you're able to answer the following questions. Who are your competitors today? What are their market shares? Who will be competitors when your product is released? Let's look at the market leaders. When analyzing market leaders, you need to obviously identify who the market leaders are, what position they have in the market, how they're funded. Then look at their strengths, their weaknesses. How do we compare to these market leaders? How can we win when competing against them? And then how will the competitive landscape change as this market evolves over time? As well as the market leaders, there may be other competitors we need to look at. We need to look at and identify who they are, what their market shares are, and what will be their position when your product is released. It's okay looking at the market today. That may not be valuable if it's going to be 18 months' time before your product is released. We need to make some sort of assessment of what the competitive landscape will be like in 18 months' time. Assess distribution channels. This is an important part of the process. Many startups struggle with distribution. It's an obstacle that they're unable to overcome. So it's very important to identify alternative distribution options in the business plan and describe the ones that you think are going to be most effective for the company. This task is completed when you're able to answer the following questions in the business plan. What are the distribution channels open to the company today? What's the role of a distributor? Are there retail outlets or channels reaching customers that we could leverage? What are the channels for reaching international markets? And what's the role of the internet in distribution? Let's look at the distribution trends. This task is completed when you're able to answer the following questions. What are the trends in distribution? Is the internet changing the way products are distributed in this industry? Is growth in China and Asia going to have an effect? Will the channels to market look different in 12 months than they do now? How will they look in 5 years? What will be the impact of these distribution trends on the company and our competitors? Defining the distribution strategy is a key component of the business plan. We need to answer questions like, what's the company's strategies for reaching customers through distribution? Does it make sense to sell direct? Should the company sign distribution arrangements? What about OEM deals? Would you consider providing distributors with exclusive rights to certain markets, like international markets? How will the distribution strategy change as the market evolves? The sales strategy is obviously vital to the success of the company as well. We need to answer questions like, do you establish a telephone sales operation or an outbound sales team or both in order to sell your products? How do you prospect for new leads? Do you sell directly or through distributors? These and other questions need to be answered in the business plan. Structuring the sales team is another area that's very important and needs to be covered in the plan. We need to answer questions like, how do we structure the sales team? Do we divide the team by market or by other types of territories, such as geographical regions, product lines, or customer types? Also, deciding on the commission structure for sales representatives is another component of the plan that needs to be properly addressed. Assessing the company's strengths is a step in the SWOT analysis that can be useful in assessing a company's current position. A SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool used to evaluate the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats involved in a project or in a business venture or in any other situation requiring a decision. Assessing the weaknesses is a second component of the SWOT analysis. Here we can look at weaknesses, and we need to be candid and truthful, look at weaknesses in our team, our product, technologies, channels. We need to have a realistic assessment of where the company's weaknesses are today. Assessing opportunities that we face today is the third part of the SWOT analysis. We can identify opportunities for new products, opportunities that are created by emerging markets, new buying patterns, and so on. The fourth and final area in the SWOT analysis is to assess the threats facing the company. Threats may come from competitive products, emerging new technologies, internationalization, new competitors, and other trends we need to look at in order to assess the threats that are facing the company today. When looking at threats to the company, it's also useful to assess any pending lawsuits. Of course, a lawsuit today could, particularly something like a patent lawsuit, could present a significant threat and liability to the company. So when assessing threats, we need to look at the pending lawsuits, and this information needs to be disclosed to investors, not necessarily in an early stage business plan, although it would have to be disclosed in a later stage business plan or prospectus. But at some point during the due diligence process, this information needs to be provided to investors. So assessing the threat and the potential liability is an important part of the business planning process. As you've seen from this presentation, preparing the business plan for a technology startup company is not a trivial matter. But your chances of raising funding from investors are minimal if you're unable to prepare a compelling plan. Experienced entrepreneurs appreciate that the business plan is a critical step in the early stage of the startup journey. The business plan takes a good deal of time, energy, and preparation, but it's well worth the investment.